Good evenings, people of the Cape Flats, mense van die Kaapse vlakte, hoop het gaat goed saam met julle. It's another week, it's another dollar. I've got a very special guest in the studio, but before we get to the guest, I just want to talk about the week it was. We actually had a competition a few months ago, something myself, Simplified IT Management, spoke about, and the Vearey. Hoe kan ons iemand help, 'n special dag maak, and so we came up with the idea to start a wedding competition, and we used the title Trou mense nog, because het lyk nie meer mense trou nie, so ons wil hê julle moet trou en julle moet gelukkig wees, and so we started this competition called Trou mense nog, and there was a lot of entries. I think it was more than 300 entries, and only one person could actually win, and toe het ons nou iemand gekies, en hulle het die naweek getrou, Tyron en Santay. And so I want to say thank you to the Mad Crew for driving them. The lady who made the cake, thank you, the cake was beautiful. The photographer, Zainab, photography, thank you so much for coming on board. And then you also had Yusri, she made the rings, and the rings was beautiful as well. And everybody that contributed, Jade, the singer as well, she went to go sing. Sy het 'n kwai number gedruk, I think she was singing Whitney Houston, we're still going to upload it later on. And to everybody that was part of that journey, the couple messaged me to say thank you. You know, the idea is to make people happy. We are fearing, we have this fear inside of us where we should have faith, where we should be happy, and the system is actually oppressing us. But you know, we have platforms to change that narrative. But yeah, that was the wedding. Everybody that participated, thank you so much. And then, on another note, I got to drive the latest Chinese car over the weekend called the Omoda C9. Kyk, the Chinese is quite. I want to tell you that the Chinese is going to take over South Africa, and you guys don't want to hear this. They are busy bringing in some of the best cars. I, however, think they are going to win the second-hand market. At the moment, the prices are still a bit too competitive, but I think in 2 years' time, starting from next year onwards, the Chinese market is going to start to boom. So I had the option of the opportunity to drive a C9 Omoda. It's a 2-liter. And it's an 8-speed gearbox, amazing car, big, beautiful leather seats. It was the entry-level one. I think it goes for $785. Might sound a bit steep, and I also know you guys are going to say yes, but it's the first generation. But I think the nice thing about this is that it is competitive. It's a competitor towards the BMW and the Mercedes-Benz. I actually stood next to a Porsche Cayenne, and man, did they look at me, and it's not even my car, but I felt quite. So the Chinese are bringing in some nice technology into the cars. I mean, the entry-level car for $785, it's a beautiful car. It has everything that you need. I think it's, if you compare it to BMW for the entry-level car, then it's a bit steep, you know. But other than that, I want to talk about something else as well, just on a more serious note. The captain at the station in Manenberg also made a comment, or there was an article in the paper, people mustn't see fake news about shootings happening in Manenberg, and I think it is actually causing a lot of havoc. So you guys can get that story. I actually posted it yesterday. I think also to the cop that said that, I think people are frustrated, people are afraid, and we need to find ways not to go for soft targets, but to actually go for the real criminals, and that is just my opinion. And then the other thing that I want to just mention as I go into my interview, and I will ask the General about this as well. I think it's a very interesting point that was made 2 weeks ago. 8.7%, the murder rate has dropped with 8.7%, and I want to know if it's true. And also the other thing that I think that could add up to that, do we have experienced detectives to investigate murder cases? That's the other thing. You have one detective for 300 dockets on his table, where a detective can only do about 30-20 for a month. So what happens to the other 270 dockets? But we're going to get to that part. The General is here, and we're going to talk to him. So with any further ado, I've got the man that people call the People's General. He's very well known, very open. He actually talks about what happens on the Cape Flats, but he's also, I believe, he's retired now. So welcome, General. Welcome to Cape Flats Stories.
Hey, thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. General, what are you busy with now with this? Let's start there. What like General?
Okay, I am a full-time writer also,
Okay.
so I write books now. I'm into writing fiction now. I'm starting a series of novels.
Okay.
And I also do some private investigation work. But mostly in the corporate scene around Bitcoin, you know. These days,
Yeah.
you know, the whiz kids make a lot of money fast and move millions across things, you know, in dollars. And it's often a challenge. They don't know whose money it is because everything they see is on a screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they find themselves later that they were laundering money for some South American drug syndicate, you know, and sending it on to my. So those are the kind of things that when I got involved in alerting people to that, some companies just asked me, I don't want to mention names, you just said, okay, if somebody, they must meet, or somebody saying, we give you a flash, you look at it, you tell us, or you come to us with a meeting with a client, or look at, you assess the situation because you've got a cop's eye, not a business, and then you tell us what. Are we safe to go with it, or if we go with it, what must we do? You know, so I assist people in that way.
Okay. So you're still very much busy.
Yeah.
Because many people, they retired and they go on holidays. I don't know if you're going to go on holiday or overseas or so. Or
No. I'm going now. I'm leaving on Thursday. I've been invited because of my new book. For the first time, there's an international festival of the Nama community in Carnarvon.
Okay.
From 3-4 countries are going to come and gather there. It's some big unification thing, but also to because this book is lot centered around the Northern Cape and the culture. It is also the Cape side. In the history of the Nama people at Bondelswarts in particular. I've now been asked, and I met most of these people when I went to research, when I went to live in the desert, and when all of those kind of things, ate the stuff that I write about, which is some strange things. But so I'm looking forward to that. So for me, it's half a holiday, half work.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
And you're just enjoying yourself by doing all this?
I'm enjoying myself. But I like the private investigation, you know, but not. I mean, I'm not interested in watching men who are fooling around or that. That's not me. The corporate, organized crime stuff, I'm prepared to assist in that.
Okay. You are a boykie from the Cape Flats. In particular, Elsies River.
Because van Elsies.
So when you grew up in Elsies River back in the day, how was Elsies River back then compared to now?
Man, I saw violence on the streets. I might not have seen guns, but I saw gangs fighting in the streets and chopping up people and those. I saw that. I write about the experiences in my first book. So I saw street violence in that particular way. So Elsies, to me, was always a place as I grew up where there were gangs. It was more based in yards instead of poster like we talk about it today. A particular place. It involved the domination of the liquor trade, and particularly another trade that was highly syndicated. You know, the vegetable selling businesses. My father was a broker, so
Yes.
I don't know what do you call them in English?
Oh,
grocer.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it doesn't even sound right to you from Elsies. But he was that, so I used to act up with his lorry, selling grains and give it. So I'm used to that type of environment, but it was also an environment where I saw a lot of violence. Because one of the challenges was, Elsies River in the early parts when I grew up in the 60s and the early 70s was predominantly, if you go up to the Lavers Bridge, those was predominantly informal settlement. Even down into Tifre. The built-up houses started from about, let's say, Belvini Road, up in those kind of areas. So, I grew up on a yard, man.
Okay.
Multiple families, multiple mense, Umara, and that kind of thing. And when the council started building houses, that's when the violence around that broke roots. Because now, instead of saying, well, I take this block, you know, and we know it ends there by this auntie's yard and that one, you now had a system where streets were causing, development was causing a change in the landscape of the area, geographical You move differently. You got you now at your bakkie, you could ride wherever.
Yes.
People cross routes, and that's when the violence started. It didn't start actually instantly in my father's time. It didn't start with guys killing each other.
Yeah.
It started with guys killing each other's horses.
Okay.
So there was part van die Pereoorlog in the Elsies
Okay.
in the 70s. So that was the kind of thing, and the biggest thing you could do, I mean, is to stab another man's horse. You kill another man's horse, it's like,
Yeah.
because that would then generate the physical violence that comes with it. So I grew up with that, but I didn't understand this in a gangster way. I saw like violence and later people chopping each other up, pangas and that. I didn't quite see it in this way. The gangsters, for example, they were hoekstaners, man.
Yeah.
Or yard boys, so there were few. They were not structured into turfs, for example.
Like we have now.
Like we have now, where turfs are actually business zones. Everything that happens there, from taxis driving through, from shops that are there, from if you're selling drugs, everything is the economic activity. Illegal criminal economy is controlled entirely by people. And it's geographically limited, So that wasn't like that back then, But that's the two distinctive differences. The gangs are definitely much larger. Look, the mongrels and the Bornfries and those things, they come a long road, but they were not exactly. They didn't have the numbers that they have here, man.
Yes.
And you could distinctively see the difference, man. I mean, these guys, I see Americans, gangsters, Americans. Let me just clarify that.
Not overseas Americans.
Overseas Americans. When I encountered some of them in our investigations when my dad and them were dead now,
Yes.
they moved into Upper Sea Point, and Saki was moving to that part and controlled the nightclub circuit there. These guys were differently dressed, no tats, no nothing, So that's one part of the feature. You could recognize a gangster by the tats.
Yes.
You could recognize a gangster by the way they speak. These days I see gangs operating, considering parts of Sea Point or Greenpoint as their turf, and you won't even from the way they speak
think they're gangsters.
They're gangsters, And by the way, gangsters in Afrikaanse praat man. Of cops. I mean, I am fascinated by in Sea Point. Gangsters talk English, speak English, man. But maybe it's the influence of the southern suburbs. But anyway, so those are some of the, I think, qualitative changes. The levels of organized crime that came with larger gangs, and the concept of turfs as a business area, a market, for that matter, is one of the changes. Now, if you have larger numbers that compared to the past, two gangs have an issue, they might agree before we go to the street and cause a lot of havoc. Take the two people, put them on ons maak beltvas.
Okay.
You know what that is?
Yes.
Okay. Must I explain it?
You can do the
I'll explain to the listener. Beltvas maak in the Elsies was a tradition I see. You take your belt, you twist it through with a clip, and you clip each other together. Each one with a okapi. Or if you want to choose a panga, you can do that. Although it's stupid to choose a panga and a belt in a belt first mark fight, because you're never going to get high enough to get. So, and then you stab until the person falls. So some of the fights did not involve, there was no. The lighties were kept on the side. There was no. The risk to bystanders wasn't really substantial, wasn't that? And people didn't even, they were not witnesses killed, Because things happened openly. Whereas now you have a totally different culture, Guys have a fight, they look cool, sweating, and they take people out, And because some of them do not shoot that well,
They shoot all over the place.
They shoot all over the place, and that we have bystanders who lose their lives in the process.
General, before you became a general, I went to go look. You were a school teacher. Jy was 'n meneer geweest.
Ja, ek was 'n meneer. Kyk, look, ek het Afrikaans groot geword, né? And something along my mother said, the people of Els, you must become a teacher, and the people of Els must speak English. Okay, that's a bit swaar. But anyway, it's very different now.
Yeah, very
I'll
different.
tell you a story of when I went to Els to one of my sister's kids' 21st, it's a few years ago. But anyway, so that is, I went there. So I did my Afrikaans, I did my English, I qualified as a teacher. And then went back to, I didn't want to go to other schools that were English medium.
Yeah.
I taught at Valhalla in Elsies. So that's where I started up in 85. Yeah. And then sometime in 87, I taught at Western Primary, which I'm very proud of because they're the school that wins most of the competitions.
Yes.
Drilling competition. But anyway, I taught there for a while. And while I was teaching there, I was arrested in my class by the security police. And then the whole world now knew, okay, Jason is a teacher. So I got over in 1983 and I'm going to overseas well as.
Okay.
So people found it hard to believe, because I looked the part, conservative, but on the sideline we were doing other things. And I went to prison, to Robben Island. Came out in 1990 with the negotiations, the Codesa process and that. Yeah, that's about it. But I didn't go back to teaching.
Okay. And there is where your relationship started with Nelson Mandela?
Yes.
Okay.
I was part of a group. We were sent, what happened in the 90s when Madiba, around about April, I think it was, he went to visit Maggie Thatcher in the UK. And what happened there is, this is how we ended up being trained up there. What happened there is, Maggie Thatcher in the meeting said, okay, we will invest with you and all this, but all your guys that you have are trained by East Germans and KGB and all these people, man, in intelligence work and protection work. We want to train people.
Okay.
So there was about 200 of us at India. We ended up being 15. So we went up. We trained with the special air services first in counter-terrorism and assault techniques and VIP protection. Back then, the special air services, because of the IRA threat, were protecting government ministers. So we had that level. And then from there, some of us were selected to train with the British Secret Intelligence Service, the SIS, and I went on to train there with them as an intelligence officer. So when I came back, because the old man everybody wanted to know about him, information, what does he strategically think. It was important that the officers who are looking after him also know how to recognize other spies. And recognize so that combination of the two forms of training and be able to respond militarily in a military way decisively when we needed to. So with the advantage of that training, I ended up part of a core team of 15, and we went wherever we went with him, overseas, wherever it was required.
To look after him and to protect him.
Yeah. Okay. And during that time I was for ANC intelligence. There were 4 heads in the structure. One was Lincoln, who you go into eventually. The other one was me, and the other one was a guy called Jacob Madikiza.
Okay.
Who was the head. And we had many other people who worked with us, who are now in the intelligence services. Betrayed.
General, the media is dangerous.
Yeah.
You know that. The media is very dangerous.
Media is dangerous.
A lot of things has been said about you, even linking you to Modek, linking you to the 28 gangs. Tell us more about that.
Okay, let me tell you the interesting thing that I always tell people. I was probably the project investigation officer against all those people with my team who worked with me. All those people whom I'm accused of working with. So at the time when people said I was working with Ralph, they said initially, then they were surprised 2 years later, we were arresting Ralph and 18 other people on a case, okay, which they're still sitting.
Yeah.
Then people said, no, this man has a strange relationship with Modek, man. But that was a bizarre story.
Yeah.
It was somebody conned Modek and told him, Kania and I are being, he'll pay us on Modek's behalf.
Yeah.
In the meanwhile, he was conning Modek out of millions. The stupid scallum that fell for sewage scheme. But anyway, but the point is, that is what happened. So there was a lot of those things, but I chose not to respond with. Because as a detective and a professional, I would wait. It's tough. I want the courts to be exposed there, because that will be the final. Because I might give you a story, and people say, "Is it that?" But let the judge see it, decide, and that is what happened when we finally got Modek, when Modek got me to trial. The whole thing was exposed for what it was. So those are the kind of things. But the media, it's interesting. I always say a lot of what is written is sometimes undersourced and over-deduced, over-analyzed into existence. I know people like drawing dots, and they have this expression, linking the dots. But sometimes the linkages are not there. Sometimes there are things you create in your head and then think it means something because you do not understand. You're not in possession of all of the information to understand the picture fully. But ultimately, that's what the courts are there for, so it's fine.
The courts are there to protect us.
Yeah.
The question that I want to ask you, you've worked very closely with the ANC of yesteryear.
Yes,
with many of them. The ANC of Madiba and the ANC of today, it's like almost saying the Jews of that time and the Jews of this time are two different. Is it the same case, the same scenario? Is it different ANC that is leading us?
The ANC of now is nowhere close in my analysis, in my opinion, to the values that were reflected in the Freedom Charter that we fought for. The kind of discipline that we functioned under before, okay, give or take, it was underground, but the kind of discipline was one that involved accountability, self-criticism and accountability. Before you criticize others, we would speak about ourselves and the mistakes we make. And going out there and in front of the constituency that we're in, even if it's underground, we must account for our actions. A lot of those things are lost now. And I believe it's the loss of that creates the space. And you must understand, when the ANC became a political party, I think in terms of now, the people who came in didn't go through the same process that I went through.
Yes.
So, because now you needed a card, you fill in a form and you go vote and whatever. So you had all political parties went through that.
Yes. So you got a more popular type of guy.
Yeah. All political parties went through that. So it is different. But I think what probably with every political party, whether it's DA, ANC or whoever, the circumstances now would force them all to renew. They're not what they were before.
No.
And if they want to I'm not saying we must go back to the past, but what I'm saying, if we want to operate under these new conditions where we face challenges of corruption, no matter what party you come from, the moment you are in a seat of power, you get targeted by syndicates for access to that power. So you need to change how you think about how you're going to operate as a party. You need to change how you choose people for leadership positions. It cannot just be we're all in a conference and then suddenly we vote you the right person, and then we don't know you.
Yes.
You might be you might have got your membership card while you were leader of the HLs, or something like that. We don't know. And there you go. So there's a lot of things that needs to be done to renew and re-look at how maybe political parties should think beyond numbers now. It's not only about numbers, it's about having the right people and people with values and principles.
Yes. Yes.
Not people who think, I mean, you can't be going to the state thinking you're there to make money because you're not.
Yeah. Yes.
You can't make money on you can't have that mentality,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
When you have that mentality, you're going to start looking at how you use the position to support a tender of your chummy or something like that,
True.
and then
True.
benefit.
Mm.
If you have that mentality, so people have shifted away from a value-based thing to me. But I believe that all organizations, all parties learn lessons from these mistakes, and they better, all of them, renew themselves.
Yes.
Otherwise, they're not going to be around in 2026.
You can actually see it, General. You can actually see the GNU.
Yeah.
But before we continue, and that's a very interesting conversation where we're going to go now, and then we're going to go to the book, because we must talk about the book as well. I want to just tell you guys, if you have questions, I'm going to give away a 500 Rand voucher, compliments of Loot SA or ZA. You guys need to ask questions, and if you guys share this live broadcast as well, I will select one tomorrow, one winner tomorrow morning, and I will email you guys, and then you guys have a voucher. And also, the General's books is available on Loot SA. You guys can go onto the website. I'll post everything in the link, and the books is at a discount if you buy all 3 books. You spoke about accountability. These parties need to come back to the basics of life. Back in the day, General, you obviously heard it a lot, and I want to be very honest with the viewers. The DA always used to blame the ANC. If something happened here, it's a national concern. That was always the case. But now that the DA is in bed with the ANC, nobody's saying anything. I mean, they have a door straight to the president's room now to say, there's issues in Cape Town, how can we work together? Because SAPS, at the end of the day, what the DA is also trying to do, and we need to be very honest, they want to sort of dissolve powers to the provinces, which I think can be a very dangerous thing. Because then it becomes like the USA, where you have different states, different jurisdictions and so on. What do you think about that?
Man, we are one country, man. We were not, if you take the US example, if you want to use their example, although it's not that, we did not land up in a frontier where several fiefdoms formed themselves as the frontier shifted. Our development is not that way, you know. So, to me, that would be a step backward, man. Because on what basis are you going to now say, okay, I want to, and then people, we can take it further. Okay, you want to devolve further province, then we can go at local. Yeah. And we can start saying, okay, there must be a degree of independence for Ward 88. And then inside Ward 88, you can even take it further. But my problem, the danger of such a system like that, is you creating various sectarian interests in its micro form all over, and how are you going to come to a central agenda nationally? Because we don't have mines here, so we're not going to have access to the revenue and the wealth that is produced in Gauteng from the mines. You know, they don't have fish. So they're not going to have access to this thing. So if we start thinking these things practically, it must make sense. We cannot, we must have a national tax base in order we are a modern country with massive infrastructure. We have massive roads. What are we going to do? You're going to drive from here to Worcester, and then or across the Western Cape border, and the roads are going to be gravel off because it's not going to be maintained, because they do not have a tax base that can generate the money to maintain it at the scale that we do in town. So there's a lot of practical things you must talk about, you know. There's no total regionalization. And otherwise, I can't just practically see how it's going to work. This thing sounds nice in theory, man.
Yes, but it doesn't make practical sense.
Practical sense,
Do you ever think, you know, the question that I asked Harun Ori 3 weeks ago from back at, I asked the question, do you ever think we will win the crime against, you know, what's currently happening on the Cape Flats, the killing of our people, the drug dealing? I mean, drugs is so out of control. You live in one area, but there's like 20 gangs, there's like 40, 50 bosses that is dealing drugs, you know, competing. Will we ever win this battle? Is there, But if we're going at the same rate as we're going now?
At the rate we're going down now, and there's a few things that must change. Okay, we've got the legislation, the Prevention of Organized Crime or POCA. That if you read it carefully, when we investigate you under or a gang under that legislation, we take you down on all legs. If you're a criminal enterprise as part of the legislation, we look at all your business activities, not only drugs. Because it's not only drugs, they're
Yes.
into other goods. You must take down the total picture.
Yes.
So you destroy all the revenue streams that makes the gang live,
Yes.
that makes the gang members benefit from those revenue streams.
Yeah.
We've got the legislation.
Mm.
We're the best in the world. We can take down a structure and where people, as part of that identity that commits this set of crimes, if we link those people, we can take them all down, no matter where you are, beyond the mere physical, you doing the hit or you doing that. We can do that.
Yeah.
The challenge, however, is with the beautiful legislation that we have, is it requires specialized units to run it. And well-resourced people. And for example, if you need different types of detectives.
Yeah.
The murders, you've got guys who are good in murder.
Yeah.
But give them a fraud docket and they don't know what to do. Which is understood because it's a specialization on their own. Give them a money laundering case to investigate. They don't know because most detectives, like you see on TV, are trained to see a body there or a housebreaking thing there and a heist there. And then you go to the physical place and then you're taught to investigate and get your clues from there and build your case. However, money laundering doesn't have a physical place. Fraud doesn't have a physical place. So it's somewhere in the system and it's what we call process-oriented crimes. Now that type of specialized investigations, or what is they call enterprise investigations, where you look at a whole company as a structure, or a gang as a structure, in terms of its different revenue streams, those type of cases require a different kind of detective. So you will have your murder who does the murder, but the people who look at the more systemic part of this gang, its business activity, will need other skills. You would have to involve forensic financial investigations to trace money flows and those things. The advantage of if you have people to do that, if you have people trained, and that's one of the weaknesses that we have in the system now. We've had this legislation before, since '96, but not enough people are trained to do that.
Yeah.
There's no specialized unit that focus. The Hawks is too small to do it at the scale that is required. So you're going to have to train people at stations. You're going to have to train people in another specialized unit. Maybe the chaps who look at this type of activity only in Mitchell's Plain. You must have a few detectives at Mitchell's Plain who can investigate cases. If it moves beyond Mitchell's Plain to another area but the same gang, then you need a bigger specialized. So, but it's a management decision you must make.
While you're on that point, I mean, guys like yourself, you are now not in the system anymore. You're not doing your thing. That knowledge, we don't have that knowledge in the system anymore. I mean, the government basically employed 10,000 people in the last last 2 years in SEPs, but there's no one to train those people. So what's really happening? Because you guys are out of the system.
You see what the challenge is while you're there. Mentorship is an important thing that must become compulsory now.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, me teaching you, showing you the ropes, is an over and above thing if I have time. Okay, so firstly, that is important. If you have a young guy becoming a detective, don't throw him with 100 dockets.
Yes.
When I was at Mitchell's Plain, because I also have a detective, I would tell a guy, no, before you even touch a docket, come with me to a crime scene that you see. go with me to a bailey hearing, then you learn the way we argue. Go with me there, and you take that and you see, you determine, okay, you're good on scenes, but you're not good in interviewing witnesses once they can't party. You know, so maybe that's not a skill. That's a skill we must work on with you, or develop further. But none of this ever happens. You see, in a detective, you throw people in. These specializations are not teased out in terms of people's knowledge, you know, and then you say, "Daar's jou klomp dokters jy moet gaan."
Yeah.
You can't make it. You see,
You're basically throwing under the bus.
you're throwing people under the bus. Yes. So that to me is the challenge. Anybody can go to give a training course. A training course is for ideal circumstances.
Yeah.
In the ideal world, you will do everything like this, A, B, C, and D. But the moment, like I told with some guys I used to take into Hanover Park while it was shooting, I said, we're not going to wait till the shooting is finished.
Yeah.
Because then the crime scene is going to be disturbed.
Yes.
So tough shit, yeah, tough, sorry. Tough luck. You're going to go in with me. We're going in while the bullets are flying.
Yeah.
Because we must get to that body and we must see that the gangsters don't disturb this, then we have nothing left.
Yeah.
So, and then you get protection. You do the appropriate thing, get in there. Get the right units to help you. That requires a different culture of working as a detective team that looks at it. But we still, a lot of us trapped. The one chap on standby goes out, and then another chap joins them. I mean, well, you can't expect a single person without the necessary backup to go to a crime scene while there's a live shooting taking place. Stop that.
Yeah.
They're not going to go. They're going to wait until it's finished. By the time that they get there, the crime scene is disturbed.
Yes.
So that's one of the challenges that we do have. But I always say detectives are the only people whose work you can measure, because the people go to jail when they work on. Crime prevention is it depends. If 10 vans and a Casper drive down here and you shiver because you decide you're not going to rob tonight, that's a subjective thing.
Yeah.
If you do that in manner the gangs, it's just like, okay, it's waffle of a beter. Okay, now we go on with our business. So, but in the police, there's heavy investment in the visible policing side. You know, but in reality, does it deter anything? To me, a greater investment should be in building the detective capability, which is the only proof that what you do is working. Because the people end up in court.
And in the moment we don't have that.
You don't.
We don't have it.
Detectives, if you look at a budget, a police budget, it's the most minimum part that's being spent on compared to the rest of the thing.
So now here's a few questions coming in.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna ask you the questions. Let me just go down quickly. Go up. Hello, Jeremy Vearey. There's Mo Malik. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. And then just go down. Where is it now? And then somebody asked a question here. Let me just go get a question. Apparently, you were busy with a case, genocide on the Cape Flats.
Oh yes.
David asked the question. You were busy. You launched the.
I am part of an initiative.
Okay.
With an organization called Gun Free South Africa, and I'll tell you how it happened. Where we are looking at victims of firearms that were in police custody.
Okay.
After after that arrest of Prinsloo and those people, that colonel at the firearm store up in Pretoria, where there was a hell of a lot of people who died as a result of this guns that were used. But they were police custody. They were in custody. They were guns that were handed in during that big hand-in. They were guns that the government, under sanctions, we made our own versions of Berettas and all those things. ZT-88 back then.
Yes.
So we were told by after 94 now that, listen, you must stop these things. So a lot of us had to give in those older stock that were now technically copies. They were better than the original anyway, but anyway, we had to give those things in. So there was a large pool of guns that this colonel had that was supposed to be destroyed, but they technically destroyed on paper and then sold to gangsters. And not only in the Western Cape.
Other provinces as well?
Other provinces, wherever there's violence, there's a market. That's where they went. But in the Western Cape in particular, we've chosen certain families with the benefit of my support and knowledge of all the cases. We were able to give more, strengthen our class action, what we call, against the police for any person that was a victim of that firearm. But one of the things besides that we're saying, so it's genocide basically, as I'm saying, as a consequence. So yeah, that is in process, but these processes take long. At the moment the police is going to play with us. They've got the money, so we've got the funding, but it's a never-ending game, you see. But I honestly believe that the state, not only the state, other citizens too, if you're negligent with your gun and it kills 5 people on the Cape Flats, man.
Yes. Innocent
You
people.
must account for it. Man.
Yes.
In a way whether it's negligent or that, but in this case with the police it was deliberate.
Yes.
We owe it to those parents and those families who lost their loved ones. Man. And he's still losing their loved ones.
And
As a result, I mean, we when they closed us at our whole unit, but we got about, I would say, 1,900 around their guns, but there were thousands more out there. And there's nobody there going to trace those guns. So every time any of those guns kill, the police can be held, or the government can be held liable financially for whatever losses incurred by the families. And we're going to support it. I'm a witness in that matter.
Yes. No, and I think we all must actually support it, because if you listen, every day somebody's dying because of one of those guns. And that guy, he only got like 3 or 4 years. He didn't even get a long sentence.
He got a long sentence. He got but then with all this amnesty and then what. But he also assisted at some point in time with, what's in prison, you help out and then good behavior and all those kind of things sort of computes into a shorter process. But I mean, that's the prison services. I don't want to...
Unfortunately. General, we are almost there. We still have 15 minutes left. But I want to just ask you, maybe before we go into your book quickly, and I must ask you this question. What is your take on Pagat? Because they were here in the studio, and people want to know also, some people are saying it's good, it's a good thing. So, and others are saying, no, it's not a good thing because they're also killing innocent people. But I want to hear from your point of view.
My point of view is, I've been there around from the beginning, and I was in intelligence at the time, in the beginning. The Pagat of 95 and 96 is a totally different animal from what happened later. What potential, and even some of us in the police, like including myself, supported it in 95. Because what it showed us in 95, we now, instead of us complaining about the community not doing anything and what, here you had a group of people who were prepared to stand up and tell gangsters we don't want to. It was not only, police, we go to run to the police, the only voice is the police and the gangsters that we see each other in court. But you had a people's voice that was genuinely coming from the ground. Okay? It manifested itself in marches and protest actions to that. Then it took a violent twist. And I think one of the errors with some of the people in Pagat, I'm not saying all in Pagat, is the cells I'm aware of that we investigated. I mean, they started attacking state institutions, police stations. The first one was Lansdowne Police Station. Threw a bomb into the charge of... Now, I mean, I don't know what lands that, unless you can tell me that was a gangster. I don't violence that was running the police station and that. It doesn't make sense, From all the path before of tackling the gangsters, now you're shifting. You need guns, so you go send your cell to come and raid Claremont Police Station, the charge office. You go and raid a station in Perth. You start. That's just a different level. Now you are attacking the state now.
Mm.
And once you do that, it lost a lot of sympathy from even the police officers inside.
Mm.
Because now we're dealing with a different animal now. You know?
Mm.
And to me, that is the issue. It is not Pagat as a whole.
Yeah.
It is what a small group of people inside that organization did.
Yeah.
And the tactics they employed, particularly against the state,
Mm.
against us.
Mm.
You know, police officers lost their lives here. You know, and some of the targets later, I mean, it just didn't make sense to me, you know, those kind of things. But there was a decisive shift in tactics, you know, where we were targeted. And that is the thing. I mean, one of the intelligence officers of the time when I was, they had a plan to, and they were intercepted then.
Mm.
They went to his house, but they were intercepted 50 meters before they reached it. They were going to kill him, and then they were going to throw petrol bombs and light up his house, where his family and his child was. I mean, when it comes to that, it becomes a different ball game. Okay. So yeah, some of them lost the plot at some point in time.
General?
But I still think any mass mobilization against gang, because gangs control the turf and the
That's
street.
Right.
We must take our streets back.
That's right.
You know, we must show them, if you're standing there, that's your hoekie, belongs to us.
That's right.
Now, if you have organized a mass people to do that, it's positive. But when you start going the other route, it's another thing.
It's another thing. Last question, then we go into your book. Then we go straight into your book.
Okay.
This is a question from Said Majid. Stan would really like to hear the general's view on how do the recruits pass the fitness test, being overweight and can't really run, do liberate. So, so that's a question. I mean, I want to force.
Okay, I'm glad. I'm only getting a little bit of this now that I'm retired. I mean, you cannot look the way some do.
Yeah.
And chase a schoolie.
No.
You know, I mean, I've chased schoolies before. You must be able to run you.
Yes.
Yeah. A tuck addict. You know what a tuck addict is?
Yeah.
It's almost like a superhuman strength. It takes 10 of us to take you down for just getting the tick out of your pocket because you're more prepared to fight because you're losing this fix.
Yeah.
So you need to be fit to engage today's stream. If you're talking about simple surveillance operation where you have to sit for 12 hours outside of a place or something like that, you need stamina to do these things.
Yes.
You know, you cannot look the way some look. And that's my challenge. But one of the things is, part of training has to do with dietary thing. You must really tell people, okay, you want to be in the task force, or you want to be in this.
Yeah.
You're going to have to eat properly. You know?
Yeah.
Detectives who worked with me in Mitchell's Plain, band, I really loved. I personally loved Gatsby's, I grew up with it. But in Mitchell's Plain, we were all eating Gatsby's at the station and swelling. So I said, no. We're going to stop this Gatsby thing.
Yeah.
Luckily, in the Rocklands, they made a vegetarian Gatsby. That is tiny, but it worked.
It worked.
Yeah. Okay, but you can't. You have to, as that, if you're living that active, it's an active job, you know, you must be able to fight.
Yes.
You must be able to throw a punch. Because if you can't do those things, what is the first thing if I see you run? I'm going to grab the gun.
Shoot you.
I'm going to shoot you because either I'm angry because I can't get to you or whatever, or I'm just going to give up.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to be fit to deal with the threats that you did and what the work demands. So my problem is, it's unacceptable. I actually think They should take those people out of the environment until they meet the wage standard. That is the requirements and the fitness requirements of the job. I genuinely believe that. You can't. I mean, it's also about the image.
Yes, yes.
I mean, we don't have uniforms for those sizes that people.
Yeah.
And if you look at the way some of them look in those uniforms,
They need to stop this nonsense.
yeah, they need to stop it. Yeah.
General, let's talk about your book a bit. You are now an author, a retired cop. You still do your thing part time, but you are writing. Tell us about your book, Crimson Sands.
Okay, this book. I'll tell you how it happened. This book. I didn't know about the Bondelswats and the Jacob Marengo and those things. I was teaching at Western Primary. And 87 at Western Primary had a principal called Mr. Clark. I was like his golden boy, you know, and all those things as a teacher. So he was totally shocked when he heard I was on Robben Island, you know. And then he came to visit. He's one of the first. And he told me, listen, I want you to go open in Namibia with me. Now it was independence. I want you to come open. He came 89, and then he came to me. He said, I want you to go open Jacob Marengo School. So I said, Meneer, he was saying, what have you got to do in Namibia? So he tells me, no, he has family in Namibia. He's got the regional roots, and he wants to tell the school is celebrating this chap, you know. When I eventually got out of prison, I couldn't find him. He had died, so I couldn't get to open the school. But it always fascinated me what he told me about these people who are called the Bondelswarts. Is firstly that they were people who didn't believe in this Botswana, Southwest and South African borders. And firstly, they couldn't fit into a category, man. The British didn't, so they called them a bunch of blacks.
Okay.
So the Dutch came and called them a Bondelswartes. Because they just couldn't figure out who they were. Yeah. Some of them, the dad is Scottish, the mother is Nama, the one is Herero, and what they yell them. And some of them have Malaysia names because they have their origins in a group that trekked after the slavery.
Okay. From
Cape, yeah, and went to find a life somewhere on that side.
Okay.
And these people, they fought a modern war, man. With guns. The guns that there's a real photo on this cover of the guns you see were the same guns the German army used. Who fought them. They had, you see the bullet pouches, they all come from the Germans that they killed. But the more important thing about them is there was genocide committed by the Germans against them. All the thing you see in Nazi Germany was done against them.
Okay.
And they became, when the Germans left now, there were concentration camps on Shark Island. People did medical experiments. Their heads were cut off and the skulls sent to Berlin for studies by a Nazi scientist called Eugen Fischer. And Eugen Fischer is where the word eugenics come from later. The Nazi science of thing. And that's to these people. And, you know, interesting, when the South Africans then took over, so that during the First World War, they bombed these people with the Air Force. And then their case became the first genocide case. What we understand as genocide now, heard by the League of Nations, was them. But I wanted to tell the story also because it is an example to us. You know, there's a history of people who come from various origins who form a unity together and fight something. They did not fight as tribes. Well, they were fighting a war in the 1900s and 1800s, while other people were still fighting as tribes. And they fought an armed struggle. And they were highly trained and they were highly educated.
And they actually fought against the Germans with all that knowledge.
Yes, and they fought against whoever wanted to trouble with them, you know. So I wrote about them and the story of what happened to them at the end after the genocide there, their bombings, then by Smuts government now later, is that they made a very interesting decision. That's why you don't know about them. They decided they're going to dissolve entirely. And then they're going to adopt other surnames and they're going to move
So the offsprings are still around.
Yes, but some of them don't even know they come from there. But you find some of them in the Northern Cape. And interestingly, there was after that big bombing and drought in 1925 there in the Northern Cape and Southern Namibia, a lot of them moved where? To the Cape. So they ended up there, Belleville, some of them and that. So they were interesting, but the rule was they must deny their identities and adopt the languages of the locals wherever they went. So this is what the story. It's a novel of war, but it's about a boy that gets fed at an orphanage in Pella in the Northern Cape. There where most of them went to school, and then gets taken to join this army. And it's a very interesting thing because they were of mixed origin. They were at an orphan school in Pella. It's interesting. You were regarded as an orphan if you have mixed parentage. And you were put in the Catholic school in thing. So they had a strange combo. And but it's an example of, in this age, to me, when people start, I want to be this thing only and that thing only. This is what this type of unity produced in the early 1900s. Okay. So that's what that book is. But it's a story of a boy and how he grows. But it is also, because I also was trained as a soldier, it is also about what happens to young men if they get dumped into a war before they are mature enough to understand it, what they go through and how they come up on the other end. So it's a story of any young soldier and what happens when leaders betray you. So there's familiarity with our current conditions.
What's currently happening. Wow. And the book is available on Amazon, Loot, at the shops as well.
And exclusive bargain books, whatever. You can also get it in Afrikaans. It's Rooisand. It's in Afrikaans. So, and the crimson and the roy, of course, you understand, refers to that uniqueness. If you're in the environment, whether you're in the Namib Desert or you're in the canyons, or when that sun sets, the world goes red. So it's also about the image of that and the Kalahari or Kalahari as they call it itself. It's interesting how when sun sets the colors change. It's a reference to what that symbolizes.
General, any last words? We have come to the end now. Any last words to the people out there? Look, we're going to buy your books, we're going to support you.
Can I just deal with the one question?
Okay.
When I came on your program, when the people said it's advertised, so other anti-cause in the plane, maar kom jy weer terug vir die I was thinking, wil ek vertel van die program wat jy moet luister. Sê dit vra nie die question. But the issue is, people, I am 62, so technically I am of retirement age.
Okay.
But I've done this job as a service to people, not as a career. And to me, if I am called upon, if people want me, if I'm called upon to come back and offer my services in whatever way possible, I'm still available. But it's not out of loyalty to a police. It's out of loyalty to the people. That's always been a guiding principle. Whether I was in Kontu, or the ANC, or whatever, there's always been a guiding principle. It's about the values, about the principles. And what freedom do you have? And particularly to me on the Cape Flats, you have this beautiful freedom of movement. Can you have freedom of movement when gangs are fighting?
No.
What freedom to conduct economic activity of that if you're going to be extorted the moment you open up a business? So these things, with a nice constitution, unconstitutional things are happening there that is affecting the quality of our freedom on the Cape Flats. And that is what must be tackled. Maybe people should think broader about this. Maybe it's a struggle to regain the freedom or get the freedom that we want. there in our locality. Forget about the politics up there.
True.
Those values of the Constitution, you must want in your house, around you.
Yes.
That Bill of Rights must mean something there.
Yeah.
You see, and that to me is what inspires me. What would make me come back if people want me back?
General wants to come back. So if the right people can reach out to General, because we need you. Let's face the facts. You have years of experience.
Yeah, I'm here to train youngsters if they want to, whatever.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter.
You know. But General, thank you so much. It was an honor having you here. I'm a big fan of yours. I follow you. I read your stories. Okay. I wanted to talk about the thing you wrote on Facebook, the Moore story. But
the Moore story. Yeah, that's one word. I think eventually we're not on this program. Yeah. We must teach people.
Yeah.
That this word doesn't only mean one thing.
No, it doesn't mean one thing.
And how you say it can sometimes give a different meaning.
Correct.
Maar die mense ken die Kaapse man.
No. Remember die pastoor as 'n kwaad is vir sy kind?
Ja.
Dit sê het veel moer.
Ja.
And also there's different terminology.
Yeah.
I can use it. But General, thank you so much for your time. And the guys, you can follow him. He's on Facebook. He's very active. And yeah, I'm engaged, and we will have you on again. We have something planned for like next year, a big thing.
Okay.
I'll definitely be in contact with you.
And people can also tell me if they're looking for a 1980s DJ, because that's the other part of my quality. I used to do a DJ in the 80s, so that's the other part. If you,
so you DJ,
but I don't like the modern trend music. But
the old school.
The old school is the best school.
Thank you.
Okay.
Guys, you saw other side also of him tonight, where he was a bit very much not himself, but opening up to us.
Yeah.
He's very secretive, so we got a few secrets out of him. So thank you so much, guys, and have a blessed Tuesday night, and we will be back next week on Tuesday. Cheers.